What is up, guys? We are back with yet another long overdue episode of the Building a Buzz podcast. This year, I've made it a commitment to myself to put these episodes out on a much more regular basis. So make sure that you're subscribed as we have a lot of cool things to talk about coming up. But for this episode, I wanted to go a bit further into the franchising process and why I thought it was a good fit for my business. I also wanted to give some updates on where we are as a franchise and some important things along the way if you ever find yourself weighing the options of how to grow your business. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm your host, Justin Buzzi. All right, guys, so the first thing I really wanted to go over here is why did we decide to franchise? There's a lot of different ways that you can grow your business when you notice that you're starting to get more business. But why did we decide to go with franchising? So the first big one for me was to give other people the opportunity to do what I was doing. And by that, I mean giving friends, family, people I don't even know, the potential opportunity of getting that fulfillment of growing a business from the ground and making it successful, and then being able to manage that and watch it grow. It's a super satisfying thing. And for me, it was just something important that I wanted to be able to share with other people, especially my friends and family. So most of you guys know that like my mom owns a franchise. My brother, his wife, and her parents own a franchise. One of my best friends, Jacob, owns a franchise. One of my first tour guides, who was also one of my really good friends before he was even a tour guide, Austin, he owns a franchise. Two people I used to work with at the Golf Channel own a franchise. My fiance, Tia, owns a franchise, and her dad owns a franchise. So as you can see, it's a lot of people I'm familiar with, friends, family, and it's been great. And I really wanted to give that opportunity to all of these people. You know, people I've been around for my whole life, some people I met in my, life after 20 years old, and so on. So it's been this really cool opportunity to see other people become successful in a business and see how that has helped them in their personal life, in their business life, and everything in between. So that was kind of the first big reason. The other big reason was, as I was sitting back and managing my two locations and realizing what was happening, I knew that I wanted to expand, but I wasn't really sure how to do it all by myself. And I've never been a big fan of trying to manage more people than I thought would be manageable. And to me, that's like more than 50 people. I feel like that would just be kind of chaotic. And I didn't want to become that type of, person that's just managing people. I wanted to still create these really cool experiences for people and grow businesses and help people grow businesses. So that was one of the really big contributing factors on why I thought franchising would be a really cool way to do it. I'm still hands-on with the other businesses, but I'm not necessarily managing, all of the tour guides and all of the people involved. I'm more so involved at a higher level, trying to help them grow the business, marketing, figuring out different ways to make them more income. And so franchising just seemed like, a really cool way to do it. And I'm super glad that that's how I've done it. I don't think I would have been able to expand as fast as we have without franchising. And that was super important, because I knew along the way we would have people that are going to become competitors and do very similar things of what we're doing. And so I figured, if we can franchise and really grow this thing quickly, we'll be able to take a lot of that market share, and then we'll be the go-to for clear kayaking across Florida and, eventually across the US and maybe eventually across the whole world. Who knows? So that's been a really cool process to see the people that I know, love, and respect be able to grow their own businesses. It's been really fun, and being a part of helping them grow that has been super rewarding for me as well. So the question I get a lot is where to even start with franchising your company. Like, how do I do it? How do I get the paperwork? How do I do the legal? How much is it going to cost? I get a lot of questions about it. And I think I'll start way at the beginning. I was that person asking other people, how do I start this? How do I do this? And thankfully, one of my best friends, Josh Woodard, he lived next to a guy that was a franchise owner of some sort of pressure washing business or something like that. And so he was able to connect me with that guy. That guy then connected me with the company Franchise Marketing Systems that eventually became the ones that helped me turn my business into a franchise. And so, I had a lot of questions going into it. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know how much it was going to cost. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to price it. There were so many things I didn't know. I didn't know anything. And, so I'm here on YouTube looking up videos of how to franchise your business and how to price your business and all these different things. And they really were able to help me figure all of these things out along the way, answering all of my questions and being there to help build it from the bottom. And so it's super important that, if you guys are going into that franchise process, you got to find a company that's willing to walk you through it. Some people you talk to are just going to be like, trust me, this is how to do it. And then they'll go do it. And you're like, okay, I hope they did it the right way. But these people would literally walk you through each step of the way, make sure that you're involved in the whole process. And that way, when you're selling the franchise, you know everything that's going on. You know everything that's in the contracts. You know everything that's in all of the paperwork because you've been a part of it the whole process. So I think that's super important, is to find a company that's willing to go through that stuff at a slow speed or whatever speed you need to go through it at, and not just a company that's like, okay, give us what you got, we'll make you the franchise, and then off you go. So that was step one, was finding them. Once I found them, it was building out our processes and looking through everything that we do and being able to put it down on paper so we could ensure that it's something that could be repeatable long-term at different locations. So that was a really fun exercise because it makes you look at what you're currently doing, how you could do it better, and ultimately it just improves everything about the business. So it was really cool to kind of take a step back, look at it from more so like an operations perspective and see all of these things that maybe you could do a little bit more efficiently, better, everything. And then through that, you're documenting it. And so you can then give all of these documents and what we call an operations manual to your potential, or not potential, to your future franchisees. And then they can use those same processes to make sure that their business model is, exactly like yours and as successful, if not more successful than your unit or however you started the company. And so the cool thing about them is that they actually came down to Orlando, Florida to come do our experience and really see how everything goes from start to finish. And they took pictures along the way to make sure that they were documenting things as well. And then, they really included me and leaned on me to help fill the whole operations manual, from checking people in to getting them on the water to cleaning stuff to, checking them out at the end to collecting money. All of these things are all documented. And they came down here. They're from Atlanta, so they came down to Orlando to check on how things actually operate in person and make sure that what they're writing matches the exact way that we're doing business. And so throughout this whole thing, like I said, we're making it more efficient and, really fine-tuning it into an exact process, which was a really cool exercise for anyone to go through. Even if you're not franchising your company, it's still fun to kind of go through these things and make sure you're doing them as efficiently as possible. And then we went through things like phone calls, emails, social media, everything from start to finish. And all of these things kind of change over the years, but right when you start, it's very important to replicate how you're doing, especially if you have a successful business. You want to show your franchises exactly how you got from the start to where you are now and how you've become successful. So they did a really good job of making that happen. So along the way, they come down, they do that, and then also they're working on the legal side of things and how to word things and make sure that you're comfortable with everything that's in the contract. And so, they kind of have a template for how the selling of a franchise goes, which is great because otherwise you would start from nothing and that would be very confusing. So at least they have this template, and then you kind of fill in the blanks of, how much do you want to sell this for? How much are your royalties? What do you want to do for your marketing percentages? All of these different things that I had no idea really occurred are now kind of given to me, and they're leaning on me for my kind of insight on what I think would be reasonable. And so the cool thing was, like, we would bounce ideas off of each other, and they would give me their input, and then I would give them my input. And eventually you get to a kind of a common ground where you're like, okay, this is the number that we want to do. This is why we want to do it. This is why I think it will sell well, so on and so forth. And so for me, that number was $30,000 as an initial franchise fee, and that's not including any of the equipment. So let's just say the equipment costs about $20,000. So now you're looking at $50,000 all in, and then a 9% monthly royalty plus a 2% marketing fee, which I can go over probably in a future episode because there's a lot to unwrap there. But ultimately, $50,000 starting up plus 11% monthly. And that's what seemed really fair to me. I feel like that's a number that people can make back in their first year of doing business and feel comfortable about. And then also the royalty was low enough to where they're not having to give, so much of their profits that they're not really making much money. I wanted to make sure that, since our margins are super high, that I didn't want them to have to give up a lot of that margin. So I felt like the 9% plus the 2% marketing fee was exactly what would work out well. And, ultimately $30,000 sounds like a lot right off the bat. To the average person, before I started doing business, I would be like, how do I afford $30,000 to start a franchise? But once you see the success rate of all of our franchisees and how well we do and how much money this business can make, then you realize the 30,000 plus the 20,000 is really minimal for your long-term gain. And you're starting a business out, I'm giving you everything you need to know of how to start this exact business and how to be as successful, if not more successful than me, and be able to grow and build this life that you've always wanted. And so when you put it into that perspective, that first investment doesn't seem that crazy. And especially after you see that all of our franchisees can make back that first investment in the first year, now it really doesn't seem crazy, And so when you look at it from a 2 to 5 year perspective, even, it's incredible what people can do just in 1 year. And so that part of it has been super awesome to kind of, figure out the right price point and how to sell it and all of these things. And like I said, they help you along the way. So that's been really important for me, is to lean on them whenever I have questions, the company that helped build the franchise, and be able to just have that kind of support whenever I need it. It's not like they just built it and said, okay, good luck, you're on your own. They've helped with the deals. They've helped with any questions, any legal questions I've had along the way. Every year they update documents. We do an audit on the franchise every year, and they help facilitate that. They did a brochure for us that we could send out to potential franchisees. All of these different things they've helped out with along the way, which has really, really helped me out. So again, if you're trying to franchise, make sure that you find some company that is willing to do all of these things, if not more, because there's so many things that can help you grow your business and build a franchise that you may not even know going into it. And of course, if you have questions, ask me. I would be super glad to help anyone with this kind of stuff. I love talking about it. And it's a super interesting process to me. And I was really glad that I got to go through that process. And now I've actually introduced one of my other friends, Stephen Oliveri, to the same franchising company, and he's going through that franchise process now for the business that he helps run. And so it's been really cool to kind of get a friend's perspective on it, and he's bounced some things off of me, and I've tried to help him along the way. So it's been kind of fun to see someone else go through that process and also come out of it the other side feeling accomplished. Like, it's a big task to create a franchise. It literally took 3 to 4 months for it to finish and finalize between when we first started and when, I got all of the final paperwork and everything. It took about 3 to 4 months. So don't think that this is going to be a quick process. It's going to take time. You got to plan for it. You got to, put some time aside, but it's definitely worth it. And one important thing to note here, I really want to make sure that you guys understand, is that not every business is franchisable. And so you really want to make sure that your model can work in different areas. And so it was cool that I already had two different locations that were up and running and doing the exact same operations, just in two different locations. And that kind of sold it for me, like, okay, we can replicate this many different locations and be successful at it. So you want to make sure that your business is something that can be replicated in multiple areas, but also unique enough that someone can't just come in and copy. And so for me, it was important to, like I said earlier, kind of gain that market share by being the first one to market, and also being able to grow in different markets, which essentially all folds up under the big brand of Get Up and Go Kayaking, and makes us kind of that known name in the space. So you really want to make sure that it's something that you can do in multiple areas. I know that sounds kind of common sense, but not every business can be done like that. And sometimes it's worth just growing without a franchise. So do your research, make sure you feel comfortable in that you can grow it in different areas before you go into the franchise process, because obviously that will save you a lot of time, money, and effort. And I'll definitely do more episodes on random things with franchising involved, but I really wanted this episode to kind of just give you a quick overview of why I franchised, why I think it's great, and how to even get started and where to get started and what to look for when you get started. So with that, I also wanted to give you guys just an expectation of about how much money you can expect to franchise your company. And do not take this as any sort of legal advice or, like the end all be all, because it's very different for every business. Mine just happened to be a pretty easy business to franchise, meaning there's not a whole lot of moving parts, whereas like, for example, a restaurant might be a little more involved. There's a lot of product you have to buy, shipping, logistics, a lot more people involved, a lot of different things going on. Whereas my business, there's only a few core things going on and a few core people that are really needed to make the business successful. So because of that, they kind of have, tiered pricing to make sure that you can get what is worth out of it. And so for me, franchising the company was $30,000. And that's kind of why I thought $30,000 was a great spot for my franchising fee to be. Because I was like, if I can sell just one franchise, I can make back my money that it cost me to start the franchise. And so I invested $30,000 of money that I built through my business in order to make my business a franchise. And again, it sounds like a lot of money, but I've also heard of other companies franchising for $75,000, $90,000, $110,000, a lot more money than $30,000. And look, it's an investment that's going to make you a lot more money in the long term if you do it right with the steps that they help and give you along the way. So that $30,000 got me the operations manual, the franchise disclosure documents. And mind you, each of those documents is over 100 pages each. So that's 200 pages of like legal documents, except for the operations manual. It's not legal document, but you get what I mean. And then, like I said, they made me a franchise brochure. They made me a website that could funnel potential franchisees. They made me a different marketing brochure that I could help use digitally. They made me a lot of things, deliverables that I could end up using in order to help sell the franchise. And so that was super, super important to me. I didn't want them to just say, okay, here's your franchise document now, go sell it. Like I've said before, they were along the way for the process, wanted to help me, wanted to see me be successful. They felt like they were friends of mine, not just business partners or not just someone I was paying to get something done. They really cared about the business. They cared about me. And the whole process was super easy. It's long, so you have to expect that going into it, but they made it as easy as it could be for being like a 3-month process. So don't feel like it's super overwhelming going into it. Again, the company that I used is called Franchise Marketing Systems. Chris Connor, great guy. He is the one that's in charge of that. He will take care of you guys. I'm not trying to do this as an ad. I'm not getting paid for it or anything like that. I simply want to help other people that are looking to franchise their business. I think the way that they did it was great. They've been super helpful along the way, and I couldn't be more happy with my franchisees, where the franchise is going, where everything's at currently. Like I said, I wanted to give you guys a quick update on the franchise. So with that said, we have 13 current locations, one that should be opening in February, which is just a few days away, and then hopefully another one that's going to be opening sometime in March or April. The goal for me really is to open like 4 new locations every year. So like 1 per quarter. If I can do that, I feel like I can get the business into a really great spot every year, year over year, continue to grow. And so we sold our first franchise in 2018 in October. And since then, we've gotten 13, well, let's just say 14 franchises. So we've done a really good job of selling the business and seeing it become successful at all these different locations too. So just over 2 years of being the first franchise sold, and we already have 14. So we've done a really good job of that. I want to continue to keep doing that and see everyone become successful. There is literally nothing more exciting in life than seeing Tia grow her business, her dad grow his business, my mom, my brother, his wife, her parents, my friends, Austin, Jacob, Mario, Sam, everyone that's involved in this from start to finish. There's nothing, even all of my tour guides, like it's so fun to see everyone become successful and in one shape or another, whatever it is, whatever success is to them, like it's fun to be a part of that and see them grow their own businesses and see their excitement from it and whatnot. So enough about our own franchise. I just love talking about it, and I think franchising is definitely the way to go if you feel like your business can be replicated in a good way. You feel like you have something unique to offer that other people could also offer if you show them the way, something that can make money, something that is a great long-term investment, and something that you're going to enjoy. You want to make sure that not only starting something that you enjoy, but also maintaining it as something you enjoy, whether that means going through a kind of in-depth process of who you bring on your franchise team as franchisees, all of that stuff. You want to make sure it's going to be something that you enjoy doing. Always, never do something you don't enjoy. So with that said, that is the end of this episode. I hope you guys click that subscribe button so you can stick around for the next episode of the Building a Buzz podcast. As always, you can find me on socials at J_Buzzi, Buzzi. Feel free to hit me up with any questions. I would love to either talk about them here or talk about them with you in a direct message. Any way that I can help, I'd love to help. So yeah. Anyways, hope you guys have a great week. I will be back soon, as I promised, for another episode of the Building a Buzz podcast. Thanks again.